There is no federal limit for arsenic in the rice you eat. None. Not 1 part per billion. But there is a limit for babies. In 2016, the FDA decided that 100 parts per billion of inorganic arsenic was too much for an infant. They drew a line. And then they stopped. 2 weeks ago, Consumer Reports bought 52 rice products off American store shelves, blind-coded them, and sent them to an independent laboratory. 17 came back at or above 100 parts per billion. The exact number the FDA calls unsafe for a baby. The bag in your pantry doesn't get a line. It never did. And here's the part that's going to sting. The worst results did not come from the cheap bags. They came from the brown rice. They came from the bags wearing the organic seal. The ones you paid extra for, specifically because you were trying to be careful. One organic brown rice tested at 150 parts per billion. Another, from a store built entirely on clean food, came back at 130. Meanwhile, the cheapest basmati at Walmart tested at 44. Let me be honest about what this video is. I did not cook anything. I did not test anything. I read the laboratory report. All 52 products. Every number comes from a public document published on July 8th, and I will show it to you on screen. We're counting down the 10 with the most arsenic, and finishing with 3 that are actually clean. Let's open the bag. First, why rice does this? It is not the farmer's fault, and it is not a chemical anyone added. 2 things make rice different from every other grain in your kitchen. First, rice is grown in flooded fields. Standing water pulls arsenic out of the soil and hands it to the roots. Other crops grow in dry ground. Rice grows in a bath. Second, rice is a silicon hyperaccumulator. It hunts for silicon because it needs silicon to build itself. And arsenic has almost the same chemical shape as silicon, so the plant grabs it by mistake all season long. By some estimates, rice picks up 10 times more arsenic than other crops in the same soil, and it concentrates in one place, the bran, the outer layer. Polish that layer off and you get white rice, and you throw most of the arsenic away with it. Leave the bran on and you get brown rice. That's the entire betrayal in one sentence. The bran is the part that makes brown rice healthy. The bran is also the part where the arsenic lives. Consumer Reports numbers this month. Brown rice averaged 113 parts per billion. White rice averaged 72. You've been buying the more expensive bag, cooking the healthier grain, feeling good about it, and eating more arsenic than the person who bought white. Nobody told you. It isn't on the label. There is no law that says it has to be. Let's start the countdown. Number 10. Rice Aroni Cilantro Lime. 127 parts per billion. The box that's been in American cupboards for generations. You don't buy this to be healthy. You buy it because dinner is in 20 minutes and there's a seasoning packet in the box. Inorganic arsenic. 127 parts per billion. But the interesting number is the lead. 0.48 micrograms per serving. Right at Consumer Reports' entire daily level of concern from one side dish. Here's the fair part. Consumer Reports trace that lead primarily to the spice mix, not the rice. So the fix is free. Use half the seasoning packet or less. You'll cut the lead and the sodium too. The rice was never really the problem in this box. The packet was. The next one has been in your family longer than you have. Number 9. Carolina Whole Grain Brown. 127 parts per billion. Carolina is a heritage name. The green bag, the gold script. It looks like it came from somewhere. Inorganic arsenic. 127 parts per billion. And a stranger number, Carolina organic white rice, hit 433 parts per billion of total arsenic, the highest total reading of all 52 products. I have to be careful here, and I'm going to be. Total arsenic is not inorganic arsenic. The inorganic form is the carcinogen, and in that organic white bag it was low, 57. So I'm not going to call that bag poison, because the data doesn't say that. What I will say is this. Consumer Reports asked every company with a product over 100, "Do you test your rice for heavy metals?" Carolina did not respond. Not no. Not a statement. Nothing. Hold on to that. You'll hear it again. Number 8. Nishiki Premium Medium, Grain Brown. 128 parts per billion. The word on the bag is premium, and people pay for it. But I'm going to do something the companies on this list never would. I'll tell you the good part. Nishiki answered. They said their rice is grown and milled in California, meets California's strict rules, and gets tested for heavy metals. And they weren't bluffing. Their white sushi rice, 54 parts per billion, one of the lowest in the whole test. Same company, same fields, same mill. So what's the difference between 54 and 128? The bran. That's the whole difference. Number 8 isn't a villain. Number 8 is the evidence. The next store built its entire identity on the opposite of what's in the bag. Number 7. 365 Whole Foods. Organic long grain brown, 130 parts per billion. Whole Foods doesn't sell you groceries. It sells you a decision, the decision to stop compromising. Their house brand, 365, is the affordable way to buy that promise. Organic seal, brown rice, Whole Foods, every box checked. Inorganic arsenic, 130. Higher than the store brand at Walmart. Higher than Ben's original whole grain brown. Now the honest part, and Whole Foods earned it, because they picked up the phone. They told Consumer Reports every product tested falls below California's Proposition 65 safe harbor limits, the strictest in the country. And that's almost certainly true. Nothing here is illegal. That's the point. This isn't a story about breaking a rule. It's a story about what the rule was never built to catch. You didn't walk in looking for the legal minimum. You walked in looking for the best. You paid for the best. 130 parts per billion is what the best cost you. Number 6. Iberia Long Grain Brown. 133 parts per billion. I want to slow down here because this one's different. For a lot of you, rice is not a side dish. In millions of homes, Latino, Caribbean, African, Asian, rice is dinner. Every night, twice a day. Iberia is a staple in those kitchens. Inorganic arsenic, 133. Consumer Reports calculated safe weekly servings. For most rice, under 3 a week for an adult. If rice is your dinner, you pass that number on Tuesday. The families eating the most rice are absorbing the most arsenic, and often have the least room in the budget to switch, and the least access to the report that would tell them to. Iberia did not respond to Consumer Reports. There's a pattern forming. Let's keep going. Number 5. Good and Gather Target Long Grain Brown. 138 parts per billion. Target isn't a grocery store. It's a beautiful place to buy things. Better lighting, wider aisles, and a house brand designed to look like a small producer made it, in a nice font. Inorganic arsenic, 138. And their white rice carried the second highest cadmium of any white rice in the test, 29 parts per billion. Cadmium accumulates in your kidneys and stays there for decades. Target did not respond to Consumer Reports. Testing rice for arsenic costs a few $100s a sample. This isn't a company that can't afford it. This isn't a capability problem. It's a priority. And when a journalist asked them to explain it, they said nothing. The next one isn't hiding one metal, it's hiding 3. Number 4. Near East Rice Pilaf Spanish, 144 parts per billion. Near East is the box that looks like it came from somewhere with a coastline. Toasted grain, herbs, a little Mediterranean fantasy in a cardboard sleeve. Inorganic arsenic, 144. Cadmium, 73 parts per billion, the highest of all 52 products. Lead, 0.83 micrograms per serving, well above Consumer Reports' entire daily level of concern. From one box, arsenic, cadmium, and lead. 3 heavy metals, 1 dinner, completely legal. And again, most of that lead and cadmium came from the seasoning, not the grain. Buy plain rice and season it yourself. Near East did not respond to Consumer Reports. Now the top 3. And number 3 is where a single word on the front of the bag stops meaning anything. Number 3. Goya Organics Long Grain Brown, 150 parts per billion. The word on the front is organics, in capital letters, the most expensive word in the grocery store. Let me tell you exactly what the USDA organic seal certifies. It certifies that nobody sprayed a prohibited pesticide on that crop. That's it. That's the entire promise. Now think about arsenic. Nobody sprays arsenic on rice. It comes up out of the ground, through the water, into the root. The organic seal was never designed to catch it. It cannot catch it. It doesn't even look. Organic rice takes up arsenic exactly the same way conventional rice does. Goya Organics, 150. Great Value Basmati from Walmart, the cheapest bag on the aisle, 44. The organic brown rice has more than 3 times the arsenic of the $2 bag, at 4 times the price. You didn't get what you paid for. You got a seal that answers a question nobody was asking. Goya did not respond to Consumer Reports. Number 2. Mahatma Jasmine Brown Thai Fragrant Whole Grain, 155 parts per billion. Read that name out loud. Jasmine. Thai. Fragrant. Whole grain. Every word is a promise about quality. Not one is a promise about what's in it. 155 parts per billion, the highest of any plain bag of rice in the test. 55% above the number the FDA calls unsafe in a baby's cereal. And Mahatma's own white rice came in at 88, nearly half. Same brand, same company, same supply chain. We've now seen this inside 3 companies: Nishiki, Carolina, Mahatma. Every time, the brown version carries more arsenic than the white. This is not a brand problem, it's a brand problem, and it is perfectly consistent. The health food movement spent 30 years telling you to switch to brown rice. Nobody ran the arsenic numbers first. Mahatma did not respond to Consumer Reports. Stop. Before number 1, I need 3 minutes, because the next 3 minutes are the reason this list exists, and none of it is printed on any bag in any store in America. If reading a 52-product lab report so you don't have to is worth something, subscribe. That's the whole pitch. Receipt 1. The line that doesn't exist. There is no federal limit for inorganic arsenic in rice. The FDA has set exactly one arsenic limit in this category, 100 parts per billion for infant rice cereal, in 2016. And here's what should make you angry. It worked. Before the limit, 64% of infant cereal samples came in over 100. By 2018, after the limit, just 24% did. The FDA proved, with its own data, that a limit lowers the arsenic. That it's possible. And then they stopped. One line, for one product, and never another one since. 17 of the 52 products here are at or over that same line. For a baby, that triggers enforcement. For you, it triggers nothing. Receipt 2. 14 years of asking. Consumer Reports first tested rice for arsenic in 2012, again in 2014, again this month. For 14 years, they've asked the FDA to set a limit for all rice. For this report, they asked the agency directly whether it had any plans to. The agency did not respond. Not a denial. Not a timeline. Silence from the agency whose entire job is this exact question. Receipt 3. Who else went quiet? Consumer Reports asked every company over the line one thing. Do you take steps to reduce arsenic, and do you test for heavy metals? 4 answered. Lundberg, Nishiki, Whole Foods, Walmart. Here are the ones that said nothing. Ben's Original, BJ's, Carolina, Goya, Iberia, Mahatma, Near East, Rice Aroni, Roland, Target. 10 companies. You've heard 9 of them in the last 15 minutes. That is not a list of companies that got caught. It's a list of companies asked a simple question about the food they sell you by the most respected testing organization in the country, who decided you didn't need an answer. Receipt 4. The number, stated honestly. I'm not going to inflate this because I don't have to. Dr. James Rogers, Food Safety Director at Consumer Reports. In 42% of the products, the average inorganic arsenic was high enough that an adult eating 1 serving a day, over time, would have a significantly increased risk for skin cancer, bladder cancer, and type 2 diabetes. Not 1 serving. 1 serving a day, over years. That's the actual claim, and it's serious enough without anyone dressing it up. Arsenic doesn't hit you. It accumulates, 1 dinner at a time, which is also the good news, because that arithmetic runs both directions. Now, Number 1. Ben's Original Long Grain and Wild Rice, 167 parts per billion, the most recognizable rice brand in the United States. On that shelf, under one name or another, for over 80 years. Inorganic arsenic, 167, the highest of all 52 products. But the arsenic isn't the worst thing in this box. Lead, 1.89 micrograms per serving. Consumer Reports' level of concern is 0.5 micrograms per day. 1 serving is nearly 4 times the amount at which they say you should be concerned. Plus, cadmium at 57. Arsenic, lead, and cadmium. 3 heavy metals in 1 box, on a shelf, legally, in a store you shopped at this week. Now the fair part, and I want to be precise, because precision is the only thing separating this from noise. The lead came primarily from the seasoning packet, not the rice. The rice itself tested at 107. Still high. Still brown rice. But the packet carries the lead. So the single most effective thing you can do with this box is throw away half the packet. That's the whole fix. It's free. Ben's Original did not respond to Consumer Reports. 80 years of brand equity. The number 1 arsenic reading in the test. 4 times the lead level of concern. And when asked to explain, they said nothing. That is number 1. So that's the machine. Now let's arm you against it. 3 things, none of them cost money. And the first is the most useful thing in this entire video. 1. Cook your rice like pasta. Consumer Reports tested 4 cooking methods, and the results will insult everyone who's ever been careful. Rinsing removes almost nothing, 5% or less. Soaking for 30 minutes, 5% or less. Every time you've rinsed your rice at the sink, believing you were cleaning it, you were removing 5%. But this works. 4 parts boiling water to 1 part rice. Boil 5 minutes. Drain it. Pour that water down the drain. Then finish cooking in fresh water. That removed 58% of the inorganic arsenic from white rice and 50% from brown. More than half. From a pot and a colander you already own. You are 4 minutes and a strainer away from cutting your exposure in half tonight with the bag you already bought. 2. Change the type, not just the brand. You've been shopping for the right brand. That was the wrong variable. Basmati averaged 55. Sushi, 57. Long grain, 101. Parboiled, 101. Switching from long grain to basmati cuts your arsenic roughly in half before you cook anything, before you spend $1 extra. And if you want brown, buy brown basmati. It ran lower than every other brown variety tested. 3. Rotate your grains. Consumer Reports tested 10 non-rice grains: quinoa, farro, barley, millet, oats, and more. Even the worst of them, oats, had less than a quarter of the inorganic arsenic of sushi rice, the cleanest rice in the whole test. I'm not telling you to stop eating rice. Nobody is. I'm telling you to put something else on the table once a week. Now. The 3 that actually held up. Best, number 3. Royal Basmati White, 32 parts per billion. The lowest inorganic arsenic reading of any bag of rice in the whole test. Compare that to number 1 on the avoid list, 167. Royal has roughly 1/5 of the arsenic. It's basmati, and it shows. One honest note. Royal wasn't among the companies Consumer Reports contacted because its numbers were low enough that they didn't trigger the inquiry. So we have their number. We don't have a statement about a testing program. A good number is a good number. It just isn't a promise. Best, number 2. Great Value Basmati, from Walmart, 44 parts per billion. And here it is, the one that should make you sit down. Walmart's store brand, the cheapest bag in the aisle. No seal, no story, no farm on the front. 44 parts per billion. Now put it next to the 365 organic brown from Whole Foods, 130. The $2 bag of basmati is nearly 3 times cleaner than the organic brown rice from the store built on clean food. At a fraction of the price. You did everything right. You went to the better store. You looked for the seal. You chose brown for the fiber, because that's what everyone told you for 30 years. And the cheapest bag in America beat you. This isn't a story about Walmart being good. Their brown rice tested at 118. It's a story about one product, basmati, doing what basmati does. The seal didn't protect you. The price didn't protect you. The store didn't protect you. The only thing that protected anybody was the type of rice and where it was grown. Nobody sells you that on the front of a package, because nobody has to. Best, number 1. Lundberg Family Farms, 38 parts per billion. Royal had a lower number, 32 against Lundberg's 38. So why is Lundberg number 1? Because Lundberg is the only company in this test that proves it. 4 of the 5 Lundberg products came in under 100. Their Sushi White, 38. Their White Arborio, 56. Their Short Grain Brown, 83. Even their brown rice cleared the line. But the number isn't why they win. Lundberg told Consumer Reports they test their rice for heavy metals every year from a third-party lab, and then they publish the results. On their own website, publicly. Go look right now. Their own site shows a 10-year average for their brown rice, about 90 parts per billion, higher than the 38 on their white sushi, because it's brown rice, and brown always runs higher. We proved that a dozen times tonight. But sit with what they did. They put their higher number on their own website. Nobody made them. A company hiding something does not publish the number that looks worse. That's not a company protecting a score. That's a company showing you the whole scoreboard. No law requires it. No agency asks for it. There's no FDA limit to comply with, because the FDA never set one. Lundberg is testing against a standard that doesn't legally exist, and then showing you the homework. That's the difference between a low number and a promise. A number is a snapshot of one lot. A published testing program is something you can check next year. Now the honest caution, because number 1 isn't spotless. Lundberg Organic Cilantro Lime Rice, one of their seasoned products, hit 105 over the line, with lead too. Traced again to the spice mix. Same lesson as number 1 on the avoid list, from the best company in the test. The rice and the seasoning packet are two different products in one bag. Buy the plain rice, season it yourself. And notice what Lundberg did when the lab found that. They answered, in detail, on the record. That's the whole standard. 9 companies on this list couldn't clear it. Let me be straight about what this report says and what it doesn't, because I'd rather you trust me in 6 months than believe me for 6 minutes. Consumer Reports states plainly that their findings are a spot check of the market and shouldn't be used to draw definitive conclusions about specific brands. Different lots test differently. They don't do regulatory testing, and they don't claim to. They also don't tell you to stop eating rice, and neither do I. A physician they quoted, an environmental medicine professor at Mount Sinai, said it directly. The levels in food shouldn't cause panic. Food is likely a small part of overall exposure. Take that honest frame. But here's the other half of what she said, and it's the half that matters. The harm from arsenic is cumulative. It adds up over decades, one dinner at a time. And so does everything you do about it. So here's the entire video in 4 sentences. Buy basmati or sushi rice. Buy the plain bag, not the seasoned box. Boil it in extra water and pour that water down the drain. Put quinoa on the table once a week. That's it. No lab, no membership. A pot, a colander, and 4 sentences. The FDA decided 100 parts per billion was too much for a baby. Then never drew a line for you. 10 companies were asked to explain what's in your dinner, and 10 decided you didn't need to know. Until somebody draws that line, you are the regulator. And now you have the numbers. If this changed what goes in your cart, hit like. It pushes this report to the people still buying the organic brown bag and feeling good about it. And drop one answer in the comments. Which one were you buying? The organic seal, the whole grain label, or the brand your mother bought? Next week, we open another bag, in another aisle, where the label learned to say a lot of things it was never asked to prove. Bring your receipt.